While Jan Nepomniachtchi had already won the candidates with one round to spare, we had an ultimate encounter for the second spot with Ding Liren and Hikaru Nakamura taking on each other. This is how the standings looked like before the round. Nepo on 9, Nakamura on 7.5, Ding Liren on 7. So if Hikaru managed to draw, he would finish second. If Ding Liren won, he would finish second. And this was very important because in some ways we all know that Magnus has shown his slight disinterest to play at the world championship, and in case if that comes true, then the second place player would face Nepo in the world championship match. So it's something where you don't really take chances. You want to win as Ding, you want to draw as Nakamura. So let's begin with the game. Ding goes with d4. Hikaru plays knight f6, c4, e6, knight to f3, d5. We have the queen's gambit declined on the board, knight c3, and now Tarash. I think to cd, Hikaru might have gone for cd4 or the semi Tarash with knight d5, and Ding was in no mood to test all these theoretical systems. He went e3. He has to keep the game going. Knight c6, a3, d takes c4, bishop c4, a6. Now we are in some kind of queen's gambit accepted territory. Bishop d3, b5, he takes, bishop takes, b4, bishop went back, castles, bishop b7, bishop b2, and castles. So let's take stock of this position. It's white to move, so it's a very symmetrical position, but just with the difference that the bishop is on d3 and black bishop is on e7. That's one major difference. And second is that white is on the move. So with these two little things that are going white's way, Ding decided to play knight e4. But this is not the best move, and notice that Ding has to win, so he has to remain careful about his chances going away. Because once black gets his rooks and trades few pieces, he would be doing pretty well. So one idea was queen e2, the other one was queen c2. But in both cases, black should be doing completely fine. Knight e4 was played, takes, and I really liked Hikaru's next move, black to play. What would you do here? f5. Beautiful move. I was wondering if knight a5 is possible. It's also a nice tricky move. Should be very good. But f5 is just excellent. With f5, you push the bishop back. I was expecting bishop c2, takes, and then bishop to b3, king f7, and so on. But Ding thought for like around 28 minutes here and played bishop b1. So clearly he was feeling the pressure, and Hikaru quickly exchanged, put his rook in the center, bishop came to a2, and now king f7. Everything looks good for black, and here white went for the move h4. And I think this is the moment where things changed in Hikaru's head more than anything else. The position after h6 still remains around equal, but Hikaru later on in his analysis said he should have taken and played rook d8. And I think, as he rightly pointed out, the chances of him drawing this position are very, very high. Although white has the bishop pair, black is going to plonk his bishop on d5, and I think after that it won't be very easy to create much play. So like bishop d5, takes, and this should be a draw. h6 was played, and this allowed rook dc1. And I just want to point towards the brilliance of Ding here, because imagine, I think he was thinking here, should I go rook dc1 directly, avoid the rook trades, and that would have been in his mind, because now after rook c8, black has a very like rook a c8 is played, white would really want to go rook takes c6, bishop takes c6, knight e5 check, king e8, bishop e6, rook c7, and rook c1. Let's imagine this line. Here the main problem is that black plays, just moves this bishop away. and you can't take the rook because it's a back rank mate. So when you go back to this position, when he plays h4, he's addressing this back rank issue so deep. So now after h6, which Hikaru fell for, I think Ding took a chance. If black takes, then his plan doesn't work. But if he doesn't, like he did here, now rook d c1. Now if you play rook c8, I have take, check, king back, bishop e6, rook c1. And already you are in some massive trouble here. Now there is no back rank issues because the king has a luft on h2. So I really like this little subtle thing. Okay, rook d c1, bishop d6 was played. I think for Hikaru, it was more like he wanted to cover the c7 square here. So he played bishop d6. Bishop f6 was also possible with a line like take, check, king g6, takes, b7 hanging. So bd5, takes, rook e1, rook d6, d5, e takes d5, rook e7. Here takes, and I think black is doing pretty okay here, although this entire line did seem a little bit worrisome with the rook starting with the rook entering on c7. So that's why Hikaru put his bishop here covering that square. Rook c2, and now black to move. What do you do here? It's an important moment. Create some play for black. So here knight e7 was played by Hikaru, but these two knights on c6 and f3 are in some kind of sync. The moment this knight moves, the other knight sinks into d4 because now the knight no longer covers it, and then I can transfer it to b3 to a5 or c5. So moving that knight was not the best idea, but at the same time white is threatening rook c1. So what to do? Like let's say if you go rook c8, rook c1, the pressure still continues on the position. So the right move here, and kudos if you found it, instead of rook a c8, is to play the move a5. And if you take with the pawn, I have rook takes a5, putting pressure on a3. And if you play rook a c1, then a b4, rook takes, and ba3, and black is doing well. So knight e7 wasn't the best. A5 would have been stronger here. But knight e7, knight d4, bishop d5, he took, knight takes, rook c1, rook d7, knight b3. Already white seems to be pressing here. His pieces are much better positioned. Hikaru went bishop e7, attacking h4, h5 came in, bishop f6. He played bd4. He could have also taken on f6 here. That was also possible, but he played bd4, e5, bishop c5, and now Hikaru starts making a comeback in this game. Rook d2, knight f6, trades rooks, rook d1. He's hoping that black will take. Ding is hoping, and this should be at least some advantage to white. Although not sure, yeah, after bishop e7, black does seem quite solid. But knight f6 was played here. And now bishop d6, knight g4, bishop c5. I think Hikaru was expecting knight c5, as he said in his recap, but he played bishop c5, and here instead of repeating, which was perhaps the best, he decided to punish this move with bishop h4. But now the rook entered, king g8, g3, and here black to move. What would you do in this position? An important moment of the game has arrived. Yeah, you can't move the bishop here because then white can just trap this knight. So Hikaru played his bishop here, but even that does not help because white is in control. The move that should have been played is rook d8. And while this move does look a little bit scary here, after let's say rook d6, takes, bishop d8, knight c5, a5, knight b7, take, bishop takes, because otherwise if you play knight d8, I have b3, which actually wins for black. And bishop takes, and now bishop c7, black is fine. So g3, bishop g5 was played, and now king f1, and once again rook d8 was the move that should have been played here. So Hikaru missed again the same line, this time even better, because you can exchange and sort of cut the knight out and then prepare knight f6 to h5. bd8, rook b7, nice move by Ding, just moving his rook away from the knight f6 attack. And after f4, well, if knight f6, then bishop d6, and this is already very powerful. You can see how white pieces are just moving very well. f4, takes, and now he should have taken e takes f4. Yes, the pawns are doubled, but they are very strong. He played e4, and now bishop f6 was played. I think there was a chance with f3 here, when after knight d4, knight e5, bishop d6, there's this key move here, rook c8, which threatens a mate, and black is still in the game. So this f3 creating some kind of a mating net was important. Bishop f6 was not a good move, because after knight d4, rook e8. Now 40th move, Ding finds the best move here, white to play. So if you play a move like f3 to support your e4 pawn, then you are making a mistake, because knight e3 comes in and black is doing very well here. The move is king g2, or you could also have started with king e2. Both are good moves. And then after, let's say, rook takes e4, you have king f3. Double attack with the king. Doesn't happen very often, but... And if you take on d4 here, then rook g7 and rook d7 with king f3 coming up is a plus position for one. So knight e5, knight f5, f3, king g3, knight c4. And from this point onwards, by the way, this next move I wanted to ask you, but beautifully played again by Ding, bishop e7. e4 is hanging. You could think of king f4 here. It is a playable move, but bishop e7 controlling this. If you take, I take with my knight, king f8, knight g6, king g8, and then you can take on f3, knight here, king e3, knight e4, and knight e7 wins the knight. The pawn endgame is winning. White wins this, because I mean black does not have waiting moves. I have two waiting moves. I can also come here, win this. I can also go here, win this. So this is winning. Bishop b2, king f3, bishop a3. Although black is keeping material equality, these pawns are way stronger than the a pawn that is won. It is not even moving ahead. For example, you try to play a5 here to create play. A nice way to continue is bishop c5. So firstly, you can't take here because of rook g7, king h8, and now there are many ways to continue. Maybe rook g6, and this bishop d4 idea keeps cropping up many times. And if you play a5, bishop c5, bishop takes b4, then I take on g7, king h8, and bd4, creating attack. So this was possible, but white is still in control. Knight e5, f4 was playable, but Ding was very careful here. Bishop c5, attack. He attacked g7. Black defended it with knight f7. Now f3, very solid. Rook here. This is hanging on a6. You can't defend it. If you go rook e6 here, then after bishop d4, already trouble is lurking around. So, by the way, look at this nice variation. Check, king h7, and now, yeah, maybe bd4 is very interesting, or was thinking, is knight g7 working anyhow? But no, actually not. bd4. There's no mate at the end of it with rook h8. So you should not go for it. But anyway, I think rook e6, just bishop d4 back is good enough. bd2, rook a6, bishop e1, bishop c3. And now this is a nice bit of reshuffling. Knight comes to d5, rook to a2, rook to c2, and now bishop e3. And he resigned here because his bishop is getting trapped now with rook a2. The bishop is controlling c1 square. There's nowhere to go. And here Hikaru resigned. Let's say, for example, after I play bishop e3 here, you move your knight away to e6. I go rook a2, you go rook a8, and now bishop c1, white wins. So a great fight between Ding and Hikaru, and at the end it was Ding who triumphed. Beautiful win by him. Here is the standings at the end. Nepo winning it with 9.5 points. What a performance. Ding is now sole second. So in case Magnus says, I don't want to play the candidates, I don't want to play the world championship, it's Nepo versus Ding. Rajabov 7.5, Hikaru 7.5. Also, we took some information from 2700chess.com, and we realized that Ding actually performed better than his rating, gained 2.4 elo points, pumping his rating to 2808. Nepo has reached world number 3 with 26 points gained. Nakamura gained 7.8 elo points. Rajabov also gained 9 elo points from this tournament. But the biggest losers were Firuza losing 15 elo points, although he beat Caruana in the last round. So his tournament was really not good. Caruana lost 8 elo points, Rapport lost 13, and Duda lost 10. And lastly, here's a picture of what Nepomniachtchi takes back home, the trophy of the winners, and of course the prize fund as well. But it has been a great 20 odd days following the candidates. It was a pleasure analyzing these games, live commentating, and I hope you enjoyed the coverage. Thank you all. This is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye.